It's April 1st, everyone, which means it's time for the annual This Is Not a Joke review, in which I review something that actually happened and or existed. In the few years I've done this, I've taken a look at Sonic meeting Sabrina the Teenage Witch, a Sonic issue that ran backwards, Sonic going to school as a student, and last year I deviated a bit by reviewing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 0. This year we're heading back to Sonic with issue 52 of the Archie comics. Based on this cover, you'd think the story would be about a mystery Sonic and his friends have to solve, but set in Mobius because covers are often misleading and it couldn't be a noir type story, could it? Well, I can tell you now, this cover is indeed accurate in relation to the story you're about to see. A quick reminder, this is set 2 issues after the Endgame story arc, the one in which Robotnik tried to use the Ultimate Annihilator to achieve victory, but ended up dead due to the machine going haywire. He did fire the machine at Knothole beforehand, which forced the village 3 hours ahead, and the only way in and out is through the Great Oak Slide. Why am I giving you this information? You'll see. Anyway, let's get started. Our story begins with Sonic and Tails having a good run when they spot a leisure suit floating in the air. Sonic decides to follow the suit while Tails heads back to Knothole to tell the others. The chase takes Sonic to a cave. Once inside, there's a big flash and suddenly we're somewhere else entirely. A black and white place reminiscent of the 1930s, and inside this dance hall, which by the way is supposedly a safe haven from Robotnik in this universe, is Sonic the Hedgehog wearing the suit. Keep in mind, he's actually embracing his role in this reality. He doesn't act confused, and he doesn't try to find a way out. Anyway, Sonic's here because he got a call to meet someone. One Sally Acorn. She explains the situation. She knows someone who can rid Mobius of Robotnik forever. Her friend Nicole. She wants Sonic to find her. Now it's clear during this meeting that Sonic's enamored with her, and Sally herself seems to be in a flirty mood. Sonic accepts this job and zips on out of there. On his way towards Nicole's last known location, the Slippy Dippy Slide Factory, yeah I know, Sonic contacts Uncle Chuck on his wristwatch, who provides information on the Slide Factory, that it's a legit facility with no problems tied to Robotnik. Still, Sonic takes a closer look and finds signs of robotic activity, including oil slicks. Uncle Chuck's able to track 4 robots a few blocks away. Sonic goes to intercept them, and you're not going to believe who these robots are. We have the robot from Lost in Space, I'm guessing R2-D2 on the right, and lastly, Tom Servo and Crow T Robot from Mystery Science Theater 3000. This, right here, is one of the reasons I started the This Is Not a Joke tradition. Someone, whether it's the writer or artist, decided to include these guys, which makes it both silly and awesome. Unfortunately for them, they work for Robotnik. Sonic starts smashing Robot, followed by R2-D2 and Tom Servo. Sonic notices Crow holding something, so he gets on his back and takes it before forcing Crow to crash into a building. The item Sonic has turns out to be the missing person he's been searching for, Nicole. Sonic returns to the dance hall and gives Nicole back to Sally. This happy reunion is ruined when Robotnik and a squad of combots show up. So much for this place being a safe haven. Robotnik reveals Sally's true identity of princess and leader of the rebellion, and that Nicole carries plans to all of his facilities. While Sonic is surprised, the only thing on his mind right now is smashing bots, until he's forced to stop when Robotnik has blasters pointed at Sally. At least Robotnik is kind enough to let Sally explain herself. She used the Slide Factory to download all of Robotnik's files into Nicole. Robotnik caught on to her and sent his goon squad to capture her. She managed to escape but dropped Nicole in the process. Sally was worried that if she mentioned the rebellion and her true identity, then Sonic might not have taken the job. It doesn't matter now as Robotnik is ready to end this. That's when Sonic pulls out his trump card, a power ring, which for some reason is not grayscaled. Anywho, Sonic zips through Robotnik's forces, grabs Sally, and hightails it out of there. Robotnik follows, not realizing that Sonic moved so fast, he and Sally double back and hid under a nearby table. That's actually pretty clever. After contacting Uncle Chuck to bring in a plane for Sally, Sonic reveals another trick, a secret passage out of the dance hall. They make it to the airport where the plane, flown by Tails and Rotor, arrive. Sally asks Sonic to join the rebellion, and Sonic refuses, for a few moments before saying he's in. This part of the story ends here as we return to the real Mobius. Sonic emerges from the cave with Sally, Tails, Rotor, and Uncle Chuck waiting. The real story ends with him beginning to explain what happened, and everyone thinks he's had too many chili dogs, which begs the question, what is in that stuff? There is a second story featuring Sally entering the Freedom Fighters' computer room. Using a combination of Nicole's sophisticated broadcasting systems and one of Robotnik's satellites, she makes contact with the various Freedom Fighter factions from around the world, similar to how Robotnik used to contact his underlings. In a nice bit of continuity, we see members of previously seen teams. There's Knuckles and the Chaotix, obviously, and then we have Sela of the Arctic Freedom Fighters, Lupe of the Wolf Pack, and Walt Wallaby of the Down Under Freedom Fighters. These guys, I have no idea who they are. Despite appearances, this one right here is not Mina Mongoose, though this design will serve as a basis for her later on. And the horse here, his name is Eric, and from what I've read, he'll appear in one more story down the line. The reason I'm saying all this is, most of the story is expositional recap. Sally summarizes the events of Endgame, including her near-death fall, Sonic's trial, the final fight, and the ultimate annihilator going haywire. Because of the last item, reality has gone a bit crazy. In addition to the whole knothole is 3 hours ahead thing, zones are starting to pop up here and there, like the one Sonic visited in the main story. As she tries to tell them to avoid the zones, the transmission cuts off. Yeah, you cannot trust the technology of your dead enemy, huh, Sally? This story ends with her hoping she got enough of the message across. Now I'm going to go ahead and give the rest of my general thoughts on this story now, because what else is there to say? I appreciate the world building, the art, and the events of Endgame having consequences, but I feel this tale is geared towards people picking up the book for the first time post-Endgame. Not only does it bring readers up to speed, it implies that if you want the full details, buy Endgame. For this reason, I will not give this story a score. Let's move on to the next section proper. The main story was written by Tom Rolson, whose other credited works for the Archie Sonic series included Super Specials 1 and 5. The story style is reminiscent of the 1930s, with influences being Casablanca and Dick Tracy. There's also a bit of the Judy Garland film version of The Wizard of Oz thrown in here, as Sonic goes from his normal world to someplace else and back, having variations of his friends present, and funny enough, having the colors reversed. The Wizard of Oz started and ended in black and white, with color in the middle, and I think you can connect the dots. As for the Power Ring being its normal color, otherworldly magic, yeah, let's go with that. The story is simple enough. Sonic going on a small rescue mission, getting Nicole and the plans to Robotnik's bases back to Princess Sally, and ultimately becomes part of something bigger. And that reminds me of Star Wars, which is based on film serials like Flash Gordon, which really started to take off in the 1930s. See how all of this is connected? That's why I think this robot here is supposed to be R2-D2. I've read somewhere it's actually Cambot, also from Mystery Science Theater 3000. He's the robot that allows the viewer to watch the show. Given we barely see it outside of the roll call and its appearance can vary, and the body of the robot has more R2-D2-like parts, I'm calling what I see here what it is. I'm giving the story a 7 out of 10. I've added an extra point for the robot cameos. It's a harmless one and done story, with the excuse of the ultimate annihilator causing this thanks to the second story. Which begs the question, what other kind of fallout will arise from the ultimate annihilator? We'll have to see. Manny Galen's art is serviceable. Frankly, Spaz's interpretation of Sonic in his suit looks better. But then, the majority of Spaz's art is always great. Thank you everyone for joining me for this year's This Is Not a Joke review. And as always, I'll see you next time. Wait, is that Robbie the robot? Why wasn't he among the groups Sonic encountered? Sure, he would have been destroyed like the others, but still, it's the principle of the matter.